Look, I know that 80s fashion hasn't aged spectacularly, but this is next level horrendous. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Tales Showcase, where horrid fashion has, obviously, never been a deal breaker. I'm your host, the Watcher of New Earth. Today we, unfortunately, have to open with a bit of sad news. As most of you, or hell, even all of you have heard, a few weeks ago we lost comic legend Steve Ditko. And while he wasn't very well known to the public at large, like Jack Kirby, he was one of the most influential figures in comicdom. His most well-known work is obviously when he was at Marvel, creating such characters like Doctor Strange and his Rogues Gallery, to Marvel's undoubtedly most popular character, Spider-Man, and several of his most iconic foes. And he's even created a couple characters that only a couple of us really care about. Characters like his creator-owned Mr. A, the DC characters he created, the brother duo Hawk and Dove, and the Creeper, and some from Charlton Comics that would eventually immigrate to DC. These included Captain Atom, The Question, and undoubtedly my favorite, the second Blue Beetle.
While this issue was not penned or drawn by Steve Ditko, I thought it appropriate to continue my look at the first DC series starring my favorite of Ditko's creations.
Now, before you say anything, I realize that this is kind of a disrespect to Ditko and his legacy, looking at a book that was neither written or drawn by him. The thing is that I was halfway through making this video when the news reached me, and I figured I'd finish this one and give him a quick mention up front, and then look at one of his works more properly down the line. Nevertheless, I'm sure some of you, or most of you, may disagree, so I look forward to hearing your complaints down below. Until then, though, let's get started. This is Blue Beetle number 2 from 1986.
The issue picks up right at the end of last issue as the Chicago Fire Department struggles to stop a fire started by the mysterious Fire Fist. All this while Blue Beetle is pinned under burning wreckage, preventing him from escape.
Metaphor, I'm sure, for the rumored Booster Gold Blue Beetle movie being buried under the fiery wreckage that Warner Bros. Insist on calling movies.
The Beetle goes on to give a quick recap of the previous issue, while also giving into the hopelessness of the situation. Only for a moment, though, as he quickly regains his resolve and begins to plot his escape. Using a pipe to give himself some leverage, he then turns to push the support beam off him with his legs and jump out in a very Spider-Man-esque form.
Which isn't sealing because they're technically half-brothers.
The firefighters, still unable to do anything about the fire, give up on Beetle when he suddenly bursts out of the flames. The firemen try to cool him off before he quickly speeds away. Meanwhile, on the south side of Chicago, Fire Fitz returns to his headquarters. He takes his time to considerately recount his origin for us. Apparently, before all of this, he was a scientist studying pyrotechnics, and one day a fire broke out. Firemen came to his aid but weren't able to find him, leaving him to burn. He's now out for revenge because he blames the fire department for leaving him a fiery, deformed monster.
Okay, so I know I shouldn't really judge considering I look like Irwin from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy if he had Frankenstein's forehead stuck on top. But dude, come on, how bad could it be? It's not like you were that handsome before.
He swears that tomorrow everyone will see he's right. He then lights his table on fire and begins laughing maniacally.
Oh no, not again.
Back at Court Inc., the two top scientists, Melody Case and Jeremiah Duncan, study a charred piece of wood from Fire Fist's first fire.
Try saying that 5 times fast.
Duncan is astounded, saying that this fire bears resemblance to the legendary Greek fire that couldn't be extinguished until it burned itself out. They put the wood in a machine so it could evaluate the ingredients and plan to head out. However, Duncan realizes one of his devices is missing, while Melody tells him to forget it, and they'll search for it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's only expensive company property that could potentially be really dangerous. Why worry about it now? We gotta get home. Letterman's on in half an hour.
Beetle returns to his base at the bottom of Lake Michigan and changes back into Ted Cord, proving that For as ridiculous as his costume is, it might be the most fashionable outfit in his wardrobe. As Ted heads home, we cut to Pago Island, where Dan Garrett, the original Blue Beetle, died. On the beach is his old rival, Conrad Carapax, who's come to search for whatever Garrett was looking for, not knowing the secrets that lie within. We then cut back to Ted Cord's apartment.
Well, thank God that's over. I was worried there for a second.
Ted heads to the shower in the dark when someone suddenly grabs him from behind. He quickly grabs their wrist and flips them onto the bed. Once he turns the lights on, however, it's revealed to be Melody.
Okay, so either Ted was not taking the threat of an intruder seriously, or that girl's arm is broken. Neither scenario is ideal.
As the lovebirds settle in for the night, we join Lieutenant Max Fisher as he walks along the street, pondering on Ted Cord, who he'll be questioning in regards to the death of Dan Garrett. He doesn't do anything, and is presumably only here so we don't forget he exists.
Joke's on them, I had to reread the first issue to remember him anyway.
The next morning at Star Labs, Ted's friend Morita Komodo oversees his employees loading Promethium onto a truck for transportation to Court Inc. All this while a mysterious red-haired man watches menacingly, claiming the Promethium will soon be his. Forget that, though. We cut back to Court Inc.
DC really can't help themselves when it comes to setting up different storylines, can they?
Back at Court Inc., we're treated to another of Ted's just hideous outfits. And we also find out that his secretary is the one who stole the device from earlier.
See, it starts with a few paper clips, and then before you know it, you're stealing priceless hardware.
Ted joins Duncan and... Oh my god!
Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it with Fire Fist!
After that unpleasantness, the two scientists are able to show him all the ingredients behind the fire, where they're sold, and who they were sold to. Basically Facebook stalking in the 80s. With an address now in hand, Ted sets off. However, when he reaches Firefist's base of operations, all he finds is an empty room. Despite this, Ted finds a burned newspaper. Suspecting something, Ted calls Melody to see what the paper says. When she finishes, Ted is so shocked that his eyes are literally about to pop out of his skull.
That or Melody's eyes gave him an inferiority complex.
Apparently, today Chicago is dedicating a museum to the firemen. Naturally, Firefist has a couple issues with that. Beetle swings in and begins to fight. Despite his best efforts, though, Firefist manages to set fire to the building. They reach the roof where Beetle takes his mask off, causing Firefist to flip out. He stumbles out of the way, claiming that Beetle would never understand since he's handsome and normal.
Whoa, handsome? Sure, I'll give you that. But normal? Have you seen how this whack job dresses?
In his haste, he falls through the roof, with Beetle unable to save him. Burns!
You saying boo or burns?
Ted nears the opening, but the flames surge in an explosion, signaling that the gas tanks exploded, killing him. The comic ends with the chief complaining that the museum and their legacy are gone, with Beetle reassuring him that he and the rest of the firefighters will never be forgotten.
In the words of one of the brightest minds of the 20th century, you burned down a clubhouse, not a club. And that was Blue Beetle number 2 from 1986. It was fine.
The story is nothing out of the ordinary, focusing on a one-note villain that, as far as I know, never reappeared. It does feel like they're still setting up the groundwork for the series, but that's about it. We don't learn anything new about the characters or the relationships. That said, for what it's supposed to do, it does it well. The art is great, with fun action sequences and only a few, eyesores.
It's not a bad read per se, but the series is clearly still on its training wheels. As always, thank you for joining me and I'll see you next time. This is the Watcher of New Earth, signing off.